Welcome to Crowning Connections with Rob Clemens. It is a beautiful Thanksgiving day. I'm saying Thanksgiving. It's not actually Thanksgiving, but it's
Right.
November. The weather's changed a little bit. It's nice and cool outside, but not too cool. For those northerners who know what it feels like to shovel snow all year and stuff.
Right.
But today I'm really excited. As usual, we've had so many great guests on the show over the years, and in my goal of humanizing the successes in business and things that they do. Today we have Carla Schuessler with us. She is the COO of the Complete Legal Defense Team. She's also running for the Republican candidate for District 61 House of Representatives.
That's
so
right.
Welcome to the show, Carla.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here when you say you're talking about people and successes. So I'm just excited. This is my first podcast.
Your first podcast.
Yeah.
See, and I take a lot of responsibility in that. When I know this is your first podcast, I'm going to make this a very, very pleasant process.
I like it. I'll take it.
No hard-hitting questions
Okay.
today. Well, maybe,
Good.
but we'll see. Well, Carla, I've known you for a number of years. How's the family? What's new?
Well, we're all going through some transitions. We've all got big stuff going on. I have the race and the House of Representatives, District 61. And then my oldest son, who graduated this past May, is joining the Navy. And
Wow.
he tested and got in, and then he tested for the rescue swimming school. So he will be leaving to go before the end of the year to boot camp, and then from there he'll go straight to school in Pensacola.
Man. Well, let me
That's
ask
a big
you.
deal, yeah.
No, it's a very big deal. Well, first of all, thank you for his service and thank him for his service for us.
Yeah.
But, when I hear Navy and then I hear things like rescue swimming school, you got to be a really good swimmer. Is he just a great swimmer? Or
I'm going to tell you, he is now. He is now.
Right? Okay.
But and I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I don't feel like he was before. And when he decided that's what he really wanted to do, I said, well, you better get out there and start swimming.
Yeah, right?
And
Can't be doggy paddling
right,
to
that's
saving
right.
people,
and
right?
he literally went after it and swam and worked out every day and did everything that he needed to do and met the right people and asked the right questions and got help from people here locally that have worked, in the Coast Guard and with the fire department and swimming. And he's a great swimmer. That was part, when he took the test, I think that's where he scored the highest, was in his swimming. So he's gone after it for sure.
I mean, that's awesome. But
Yeah.
what inspired him to do that? If he wasn't already, Michael Phelps, then what inspired him to say, yeah, I want to go for this?
I think it's something he's always been passionate about, the military, and our families all have a military background. His father was in the Navy. Two of his three uncles were in the Navy, and both of his grandparents on his father's side. And then I have uncles and grandparents and people that have been in the Navy. So military was big, and it's always something that he's been interested in. And I think for me, I kind of thought he would always go, off to college, but I think this is a good fit. And being a mother, people will ask me, are you scared, or how are you feeling about it? And I think that, I don't want to get choked up, but he is such a leader and I think that this is the right place for him, that he's going to do well representing our country, but also, being a leader and with other people's children that are there as well. And so I feel like if I focus on that part of it, then I can, stay proud and excited for him.
You get to be the proud mother, but you said something there that I thought was really cool. It's like, it's probably hard for you to see him leave, and it's hard to know that he's going to do that, but you're feeling like, he's the right guy to take care of other people too.
I do, and I feel like that's, something that I can give, right? Is that my support and approval of my son to go on and do that. But little things are now starting to choke me up here and there. Like the dog was looking for me the other day. I'm like, she's going to be so sad when he's gone. And it's just been, Jack, and then his brother is just 1 year younger than him. And so he's a senior this year. And so we're all going to go through, changes and different. So it's the next chapter of the Schuessler household, I guess. And so we're excited. He's had some great football he's been playing with his team, and so we're anxious to see what happens with him and what his college, where he's going to go. That's what he wants to do. So,
well, it's great. I can tell you that I had somebody tell me one time, my father was Air Force for many years.
Yeah.
And so I grew up as a not just a PK, aka a preacher's kid, but I was also the son of an Air Force chaplain. And I had somebody say to me one time when I told them that, they said, well, thank you too as the family of a service member.
That's
because
right.
people don't realize how much the families give up too. And so it's always good to keep it in perspective, and to see you get a little choked up. That means something I totally understand.
My uncle actually was higher up in the military, and he was giving me some advice even throughout the campaign. And he said, when you talk about the military, also talk about the retired, the active, the reserve, the guard, and their families.
That's right. That's right.
And thanking them and what we want to try to help do and provide more services or access to services.
Very cool. I do have a book for your son to check out. So we had a person on the show before, Michael Abershoff, and he was in the military Navy, and he had a book called, he wrote a series of books, and they're actually, New York Times bestseller level, but one of them is called It's Our Ship, and he also had one, I believe, that's It's Your Ship. But I can tell you that great leadership things, and one thing that I love about it is they're good for businesses in general, and that's why I wanted to have Mr. Abershoff on the show. But I can tell you that for a military person, it's going to really hit the home. Shows how everything up the line can make a difference. So as he's getting fresh in his career, go out and do his thing,
Okay, for sure. Yeah, I'm going to write, I usually have a notepad where I take notes, and I don't have to look down, and it's not there, so I'll write it down after. Okay.
Right. All right, perfect. Well, so you've had a lot of stuff going on, and that's obviously a big part of life. I know that you're also, we talked about running for District 61, and I've known you for a number of years, but for those of you, of the people that are listening that don't know you, kind of take us back to the beginning and tell us how you got to this point.
Sure. I was born in Indiana. I moved to Illinois with my mother and my stepfather when I was like 10, and I lived there all through college. And after college, I graduated. I went to Illinois State. I stayed at school, so after I graduated, I moved home, and I was commuting into the city, and I was working at a law firm, and I was taking the train and doing all that.
Yeah, the whole. Yeah.
And it was a hard job to get, but I was like the lowest person. I think my salary was like $14,700 or something. I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
And I was like the assistant to like the lowest person. They would call me and like, go move this box.
You were
from here
hold
to
on.
here.
I want to make sure I understood that you were the assistant to the lowest person there.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Humbling.
And it was just kind of like, I don't really like this job, and all my friends were doing other things. And one day I was walking in the building, and I saw there was like these holes in the ground, and they had poles up, and I would ask somebody, I'm like, what is that for? And they're going to put a rope there because it gets so windy in Chicago, and this was a really tall building, that you have to like hold on to get. I'm like, oh no, I'm not pulling myself into this building. No, not going to happen.
Right.
So my youngest stepsister went to Coastal, and she was living
Shout
here.
out Coastal, by the way. Big Coastal lovers.
And she was living here, and I'd visit her several times, and she was home at Christmas time. She said, just move down here and live with me. You love it there or here, and come on. And so I packed my car up and came to Myrtle Beach. I knew one person, my sister, and her friends, and we lived in Conway, down from Conway Hospital, and she went to Coastal. And at that time, Carolina Forest, that was 25 plus years ago.
Yeah, I'm going to say Carolina Forest wasn't even really a thing 25 years ago, right?
No, that Food Lion that's right by the hospital, that wasn't there. I mean, we went into downtown Conway to dry cleaning and, grocery shop and all that. And I got a job working at Liberty Steakhouse and Brewery at Broadway at the beach, and it was right after it opened. So,
nice.
It's funny, I tell the story a lot, or I have recently, that people will say, you look so familiar to me. I know you somehow. And I'm like, oh, I've worked at Habitat, or I've done this, and, I've been involved with the chamber. And like, no. And I'm like, well, my boys played football, or they're at school here. No. And I'm like, well, I work here. No. I'm like, 25 years ago, I waited at tables in the beer garden at Liberty. Like, that's it. That's how I know you.
I
you
knew
waited
I was
on me.
craving steak for some
Right.
reason when I saw you. Yeah.
But it was the place to go way back in the day, and happy hour.
No, and it can still be the place to go, right? It's just not at Broadway now. Did they move to
so
another?
they closed it not too long ago. That place, so that was the original one. And when they closed it, so many people that had worked there from all over the place came back to that party. It was really neat. It was like a reunion. It was kind of cool. But you're right, they do have another Liberty tap room.
Yeah, I think
up
it's
on the
like
north
17 Business, Myrtle somewhere. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But the original that was at Broadway,
Right.
they moved out of that.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
So I worked there, and that from there met a lot of people and built relationships, realized what kind of small town this is, and how it really matters to know people and build relationships. And that's where I met my next boss, who I actually work for now, which is interesting. But I worked for him and his wife at the time, and he had a small law firm, and it was just him. And I worked there for several years. My husband got married, and I was pregnant. And I changed careers and went to work for a homeowner association management company.
Very rewarding career if you like getting yelled at on the regular.
And I think that transition there, I learned so much from that job. And I was there for 11 years. And I had the opportunity to work with a lot of successful people in the community and a lot of leaders in the community, and it was a lot of exposure, but it was, we grew in size. We also then went through 2008 and 2009 and just, people buying a bunch of condos, losing their, just that piece of it. And then that's where I also got involved in the chamber and went through Leadership Grand Strand program that the chamber has, and that was a really big changing point, I think, in my life. But the homeowner association manager, where I learned, I told myself, I said, okay, because there's just lots of things when you do that job that you don't want to do, and people are just angry when they come in through the door, and you can't take it personal. But
I was going to say, it's got to be like right up there with like the people who have to deal with lost luggage for the airlines. It's got to be right up there, because
that's a really good connect. Yeah, I would say so.
You're only going to see these, and nobody's like, hey, my community's just going so smooth today. Just want to call you and thank you for that. It's always going to be the
that
other.
doesn't happen.
No, that doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen that often. But that's also when I thought, my job changed every day because we were growing as a company, and I was filling holes. And I just said, I need to look at all of this as an opportunity. Find the opportunity in everything that I'm being asked to do, in every situation that I'm in, good, bad, or otherwise, because it's either going to serve me better here in this job or somewhere else down the line. And I don't always stay there, but I really do try to stay there, and it's really proved well for me, I think.
I mean, that's what I like to hear, and I think that's what a lot of people who listen want to hear. It's like, how did things serve you? And I have a little thing I tell people that, I work with, and if anybody's ever looking into me as a mentor, I have this thing I tell people, and I say, everything that you do is an audition for tomorrow. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's an audition. And I think you're a testament to that, because really I look at it from the way you just described this. So you're working at Liberty Steakhouse, right? And you learn, customer service and connections. And my gosh, we found so many terrific employees over the years who started in the restaurant industry.
Oh, yeah.
Because you learn so much about, timing and service, right?
And just attention to detail and what it means to get that. Like some of the general manager and the owners of Liberty, part of my work ethic came from them, and just, how to present yourself and taking respect in how you look and present yourself, but also, getting there on time and the hustle and the customer service. And it was a big deal for me.
Sort of like the culture of everywhere is going to be a little different. And, you might get that one restaurant where it's like, hey, we're just the laid back group, we're going to but it's like, no, you got to hustle and service and the whole 9 yards. No, I love that. And then of course you go into the property management side of things.
That's right.
And of course that's always going to be something where you learn solutions and problem solving, right?
Right.
And time frames. And then you get back into, so your next step after that was?
So from there, I went through the Leadership Grand Strand program. And I think for me, I probably dealt with a little bit of lack of confidence. I think sometimes I still do,
During the Leadership Grand Strand, you felt this?
Going into that, I think I was maybe a late bloomer professionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there I really just learned at what I was capable of if I put my mind to it and got out of my own way, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
And so built more relationships, learned a lot about our community and how it all works and where the connections were between cities and county and, just the importance of the different, tourism here versus families versus...
And this is specifically in Leadership Grand Strand, you learned that. Okay, let's talk about this a little bit more.
Okay.
So Leadership Grand Strand, though, so it's meant a lot to your career, it sounds like, and you talked about that. So build through how it helped your confidence, though. That's what I really like to hear,
It was an opportunity to get involved, and there was leadership training throughout it. But then I had the opportunity to serve on the board of Leadership Grand Strand afterwards. So, and that was a 3-year term, and in doing that, I was able to attend the classes and attend the leadership training that they had. And
right.
So, just through that and exposure and just your peers pushing you to do, or stepping up to do it. And it just isn't as scary when you're among friends or you feel like you're among friends.
All
and
right.
that you're wanting to do something together, that I just started to see, okay, well, if I keep this right mindset about, what's the opportunity here? Why, what's the purpose? What's God's purpose in this and that for me? And keep going and learn from it. And then recognizing in the next situation, I know I've been through something like that. I can deal with this.
Yeah.
Or, you start to build your confidence as opposed to thinking, well, I can't do this, or I don't know anything about that. You're trying to find the connection with what you've learned with what you're facing.
I get you.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And from there, I had the opportunity to serve on some different committees of the chamber, which were educating to me, and I learned a lot. And then I got involved with, I had been involved with March of Dimes for a good while, and their March for Babies that they did. I worked with Crystal at the time, and helped put that together for a few years. And then I served on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity.
Nice.
And then I was really passionate about that. I felt very connected to that organization. And then the executive, I had rolled off the board, went through divorce, and was just kind of trying to focus on what's that next stage for my boys and I look like, and their father. And so the opportunity came up. I think the executive director was retiring, and I was at a function, and I ran into some of the current board members on Habitat, and they said, they were getting ready to do a search for the next one, and I said, they said, you want to put your, hat in the ring? I said, absolutely. So I went through the process like everyone else did, and then ended up, they selected me, and then I went to Habitat and ran our Habitat for almost 6 years.
And that's where I initially met you.
Yeah.
And interestingly, in the recent weeks here, we had Blakely on the show.
Did?
Yeah,
oh,
and I think I met you guys around the same time.
For sure. Yeah.
And just such a passionate team about helping the community, and always you could feel it amongst that group, and I'm sure you still can. But that's
so
how I got
Blakely
it.
was. Blakely and I were in the same Leadership Grand Strand class together. Okay. And so have always been friends since, and I think that was like in 2008 or 9 that we went through the class. And then same kind of interestingly, we were at a function and we ran into each other. I'm like, I could really use, a director of administration or somebody to help me. And she's like, well, are you hiring? I'm like, are you interested? That kind of thing. And it went from there. So she came to work at Habitat with me, and And Aaron Walters is another one. And we were a pretty strong team for several years and just really connected on our passion. We really had the same passion and vision. And we were able to do a lot while we were there, I think, and really affect some families. So.
I mean, I know you guys always were like, you did a lot of stuff. And I can tell you, like, just the families that you helped and the things that I saw in my time was pretty impressive. I want to go back to a minute ago. You said you were a late bloomer. Compare yourself now to the person that you said was previous to Leadership Grand Strand. How are you different now, and how do you figure that you bloomed,
Yeah, I think, too, so Leadership Grand Strand was instrumental, and then also I think my faith and my relationship with God, and that really, I was raised in religion, but there was a turning point when we joined the church that we go to Wellspring Church, and when we joined there, I think Nate was in 6th grade, so he's a senior now. But that kind of put everything together for me, made everything make sense, and really helped me perfect the look for the opportunity, look for the purpose, trust,
Sure.
kind of thing. And so I think those two things have what helped me be more confident, or not necessarily confident, but realize it's not about me, right? That sometimes I'm just put there to be the vessel or the tool, and there's something more important happening, whether I'm nervous about something or I want, and so I wasn't really sure what I was going to do or have a lot of passion, I felt like, when I was younger. And so as I started to be exposed to some of these things, it just started to naturally come out of me, I guess. I don't know.
No. With growth comes wisdom, and confidence is an interesting thing, because you can be confident, but you don't always get to express it properly. And I think sometimes it just has to have the vessel to come out in itself. So
that's right.
A very cool thing. So now you're over at the Complete Legal Defense Team.
I am.
What's the culture over there?
Well, and that's interesting. I had always kept in touch with my former and I guess current now boss, and he said, I really want to grow the firm. Will you come back to work here and help me do that and restructure? And we work on profitability and kind of a refocus, and customer service is big, and we were trying to do things a different way there and really focus on our clients. And our clients aren't necessarily, the majority of our clients have never been arrested before. They go to church with us, or next door neighbors, or kids.
And is that by design, Carla? Is this something that you guys said, hey, who's our target market? It's going to be this person, or is that coincidental?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it always has been, but now we're seeing like that's what we do best. We are leveraging what matters about someone to protect what matters most, or what the great things about when we have business owners and students, military, and we think that one situation doesn't define a person, and that you can move past and forward after bad situations happen. So we really focus on a relationship with our clients, really getting to know them, and then we leverage all the wonderful things about them to protect what matters most. If they own a company or a business or a home, and a lot of people live here, some don't live here, and so it's important to us that we, have that connection with them, and we really are empathetic and diligent in what we do. So
understand. Yeah. Well, no, it's important, and I'm glad you said that, because I feel like that in businesses, a lot of people struggle because they don't really know who their target market is. And I really think that the way most small businesses start is, hey, every client's a good client, right? It's like, look, if you got money, you're a good client for me.
Right.
And you get to a point where you really say, hey, here's who we're out to seek. And how do you market your company towards finding that person?
Well, and that was the thing. Greg knows a lot about marketing and Google and this, and that's somewhere where I had space to grow. So that was what was attractive for me to come there. And But I've really been able to apply a lot of what I've learned in other positions and jobs and experiences to how we really do what we do. And we're really trying to create a way of doing things that's changing the way criminal defense is.
Okay.
And so, marketing wise, we're targeting, certain demographics, I guess, but, and we do television and online, but, and really trying to get involved in the community. And I know you all know a lot about doing that and what that means to the community, but also what it means to the people that live there,
absolutely.
And this being the town that it is with so much growth, it also is still a small town when it comes to relationships and trust and respect of the companies and the families and the people that live here. So
that's part of the marketing strategy, is being amongst the people. Like that, and if you're a business out there listening, that's important. I think it's been an important part of ours, and
sure.
That comfort of doing things. So let's save way over then, if we could.
Yeah.
So you decided to run as a Republican candidate, District 61, House of Representatives.
Yeah.
Tell me how you got to that point that you decided this was a thing you felt like you needed to do.
Well, there was another thing that happened. I was at Habitat at the time, and I was serving on the Chamber Board of Directors. And I had served my 3 years, and they have a chair of the board. And I was like, gosh, that's something that would be a push for me to put myself out there to do that. It's an intimidating group, and I was representing the nonprofits where a lot of times there wasn't a nonprofit even at the table. So I'd done that, and I said, well, if God, if that's what I'm supposed to do, it'll happen, or I'll just roll off and different opportunity will present itself later. And so anyway, we had some discussions, and a friend of mine, Terrence, I'm like, oh, I thought you were going to run. He's like, no, I think you should, kind of thing. And anyway, so I did, and I was elected, and so I became the chair that next year. I think it was 2018, but that's also the year that the CEO of the chamber, who had been there for 17 years, left. And so it was like, wait, what? I'm like, I'm supposed to go to events and parties and
I think that kind of surprised a lot of people too.
But it was a big deal because it's a big organization. It's very involved in the community. So then you had people like, well, wait a minute, who's this girl? What is we need to who's going to handle things? Like, what do you mean he's leaving? And who's going to help us find a new person? And how are things going to happen in between? And so I will be honest, it was a very frightening time in my life because there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of demands. I was still kind of struggling and coming to terms with even feeling comfortable speaking in front of a lot of people.
Okay, yeah, so, I understand, yeah.
And then I turned around and I was at a press conference and I was talking to staff and I was talking to the board and I was talking to all of the members.
So you had to break through kind of something that wasn't really natural to you.
That was the big time where it was like literal come to Jesus, where it is not about me. It's not about me. This is something much bigger. It's, a lot of people are depending on the success of the chamber, the community as a leader. We've got to find the next leader, and then even there was a lawsuit that the chamber was involved. There was just so many different things going on that I had. It was just not about me, and I had to focus that way. And I took a lot of notes, and I just tried to take it all in and said, for whatever reason, all of these experiences are going to serve me or someone else down the road. And so, but because of that, I think, in the ability to do that and seeing the inner workings of the different local, leadership and even city and counties and even at the state level, that I was put in positions where I had the opportunity to make these relationships that then I'm like, okay, when I rolled off of that and that all happened and Karen came as the new leader and, it's like, okay, where am I going to serve next? It's just became a part. It was such a big part of my life to work, have a family, and serve that I was like, I felt called maybe, or that's how my life was supposed to work. Like a big level of service, a job where I felt like I was fulfilled in giving back still and then raising my boys.
Sure.
And so literally at the time I was looking around like, okay, so where can I serve? Where can I put, I changed jobs. I went to work at the Complete Legal Defense team, and I'd gotten that. I went to work the week that COVID shut everything down.
Wow.
So I'm like, hi,
yeah.
nice to meet you all. Let me figure out how we're not going to work in the office.
Right.
But we were able to stay open, and we came up with some creative ways of doing that, and kept everybody on staff, so it worked out. But I kind of figured out my place there and how that went. And so I said, where am I going to serve next? And the boys were getting of the age where I felt like I could give even, in a public service level. And so I was talking with some people, and we were wondering what was going to happen on county council and some different things. And then the census came and the redistricting came, and Horry County ended up with another seat, which is an amazing opportunity for us in Horry County to have. And I just said, this is it. I felt, that like I was saying, this is where we need you to be. And for us here in Horry County, having now 8 representatives as opposed to 7 gives us a stronger buying power, stronger, united team that we can go in and work, I think, to have more that we can bring back here to Horry County. So I just felt like it was a good fit. I felt like I had something to bring to the table. And everything that I'd learned and everything that I knew about our area, I felt like I needed to use it somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, no, I understand that. Sometimes you get that opportunity and you realize that it really meant a lot to you. You might not have known if it wasn't for all those other opportunities. What are some things you've learned since you did that? Just things that surprised you.
Running for office is extremely expensive, which I guess I thought that, but I didn't really know it in real terms, I think. And it's time consuming. It is. And, you have to have a thick skin. So it's all the things that people say. But I guess it's just a different experience when you go through it. This is what I'll say to my friends. Like, well, you knew this was going to happen. I said, yes, but allow me to have my very first experience of it. You know what I mean? Allow my feelings to be hurt the first time, and then I'll grow my thick skin, and then we'll keep going. But, or even, people who are your friends, but they might be better friends with your opponent or have a business relationship. And I'm like, they donated in supporting that person, but they should,
it's
all of those things. And it happens, and it was like, oh, that's just how it is. I'm like, that's fine, but let me have my first experience in it, and then I'll be fine, and it's okay. But you just have to go through all of those things. I really enjoyed knocking on doors and talking to the people that live in the district. Probably the most out of anything. Okay.
When you knock on a door, are people glad to see you, or is it what the heck?
It was. I think I personally knocked on over 2,000 doors.
Wow. Okay.
From the primary, and then now with the primary and the general, and I might have had 2, maybe 3 people that actually said, "You're soliciting," that were really upset about it. You know, I've had 2 doors I went to that you're soliciting. But I'll take your information anyway. And then I sat there and talked for 20 minutes. Okay. And then she was involved in a nonprofit with quilting. And I said, put her in contact with some other people. And so it was a great conversation. Yeah. And so the majority of all of it was really positive. Really positive. And positive experience. Now, people have a lot of great concern. I've lived in District 61 for over 17 years. So living there, I kind of know what we've done. We've dealt with flooding concerns. We've dealt with traffic and safety of our roadways, needed infrastructure, and now economy. And, it's scary times, and people are concerned about being able to afford their groceries and gas and, taking care of their families. And those are all big things, that are on top of mind to everyone. And one of the other things was just division. People are tired of the division of And I think you see it at the top, and then you see it everywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in politics and in life. Yeah. And so I think that, I've been put in situations and found opportunities where I've had to try to bring people back together, right, and lead through it and look for solutions. And I'm very, I say, solution-driven. And so I thought, this is another good time and a good reason maybe why I can be involved and do some good there. Is more so than I'm going to go in, I'm going to make this, I'm going to make sure this gets done and that gets done. People will say, well, what's the first thing you're going to do when you get in there? And my answer is to be like, you can't say that. You don't want to hear that. They want to hear you're going to put a stoplight here. You're going to do that. And I said, I'm going to listen and I'm going to learn is really what I'm going to do. And so, because that's the best way to know how then you can turn around and get something done for the people you represent.
Well, that makes good sense. I know the economy's a hot topic right now. Obviously, interest rates going up, which is an idea of curbing inflation and things like that. Is your sense that when you're talking to your people in Horry County, District 61, have you found that the number one concern was that, or are we still talking schools? Was there any one common denominator that you just felt like was kind of kept coming up?
I think everybody mentioned division.
Division, okay.
A majority of people mentioned just the fighting and the division and the name calling, and then also the economy and inflation for sure. I mean, there's roads and other. We heard a lot of education, roads, safety, for sure, military access to, opportunities and services, but just the state of everything, the division. And then the economy were big ones that you heard in almost every door, because people want to be able to take care of their families and live. And so that's one thing for me. I'm extremely conservative fiscally when it comes to that. I've worked really hard. Like I said, I'd been through divorce. It was important for me to keep my home and raise my boys, so there wasn't a lot more change than needed in their lives. But that takes sacrifice and planning and budgeting, and my experience with homeowner associations, and we manage other people's money and dues and budgets and projects, and that's one thing I've always said, you want to know how someone's going to manage your money, look how they manage their own money.
Absolutely.
And been responsible for other people's money, and I don't like to spend money that I don't have. And then going to Habitat, I mean, we, when we got there, it was coming out of the 2009 time, there was land, which Gail, the former executive director, did a great job with getting the infrastructure and all that in place. So then I could come in and try to build those relationships back and partnerships like we had, and try to get some of these houses built and start the education program back for the families. And we started a kids education program, but that was a big budget and finances and, public-private partnerships and government funding. And so, and there too, managing money. So I feel like, our state house and Senate do a good job with the state budget, and they did this last year, and I want to be a part of that, and I'm on board with having reserves and giving money back and using it for raises and using it for roads. And so I'm excited for the new leadership that they have in place in the House. I think that's on all of their agendas, and so that's exciting to see what happens with all that.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah. If we I've got a few topics I want to make sure we have time to cover here, but if you could just summarize your, I guess, in a sentence or two, try to tell us who you are as far as a candidate goes. Just what's important to you.
I think unity is important, and communicating and listening, and that's what I plan to do. I want to bring back us as a delegation need to work together, and now adding one more person, we can be a stronger voice to get some of these things that we need back here, whether it be roads and infrastructure, education is a big deal. My boys literally went from kindergarten to seniors in high school through the Horry County School District. I want to help in any way I can there to ensure that they have the best opportunities our students do, and protect our police and fire and first responders, and help our military vets. So I am, like I said, solution driven. A positive. I want to come from a place of yes, I guess, is what I like to say at work, is that let's talk about how we get to where we want to go and not all the reasons why we can't get there.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I would apply to solving problems and doing that there.
Makes sense. I like it. So a couple of things. I wanted to,
Sure.
This is what I would call the get to know you point of this a little bit.
Yep.
Any inspirational figures in your life that you think have kind of like made you, or you maybe emulated?
So I can't remember what the word is, but I'm kind of it's an anomaly of a bunch of different people. I kind of,
Okay.
I really try to make a connection with everyone that I meet and really find something about them that I would like to emulate, or I'm like, I could be more like this.
That's cool.
I could do it with you. I can, about how you've always, pushed yourself and built relationships, brought people together, and are always looking at, ways to, and I really did admire this. I really do admire it about you, is just making the connection about other people and how they can connect with each other.
Fair enough.
And serve and things. So for me, it's like, Brenda Bethune, when I was chair of the chamber board, she had just come in as the mayor her first term, and I didn't know her, and she was so kind and gracious to me being in the position that I was in, and has really kind of looked out for me and mentored me and pushed me right to stay involved and be involved. And I admire that so much about her, because I think we need more women that do that for women.
Right.
Certainly. And then, even the kids in my youth group, when we joined that church, I was raised in a very traditional, I was Lutheran, and this is more of a non-denominational church, and so it's a little bit different. And just some of these kids and their relationships with God and their faith was so strong, and I looked up to them. I wanted to be more like that. I wanted to have that relationship and work towards that. So I don't really have one person, but I kind of take a little bit from everybody, and I can tell you, depending on who it is, like what it really, what I'm taking from.
You see something you want to emulate in people.
Sure.
I think that's really cool, and I think it's a good way to be. You look at a little something, you say, how can I apply that to my life? Very cool. Any books you're reading right now? Anything kind of on that side?
So I'm reading. It's a David Goggins book.
David Goggins, yes, we know a little bit about him. Okay, which one is it?
I knew you were going to ask
I think he's got one called, is it Can't Hurt Me?
That's it.
Okay, got you. Great book.
So I work out with a group in the morning of women, and it's peer led, and we all we run and do boot camp stuff together, and one of the girls was reading it. She was telling us about it. We were running one day, and she told me all about it. I'm like, and then my son, going into the Navy, and then into the rescue swimming, which is down that path, the special ops. And I'm like, okay. And then I went to a summit, and I was looking through the pamphlet of who was going to be, and he was speaking at it. So I'm like, okay, so I hear
cool.
you, I'll read it, the book. So that's what I'm reading.
Look, if you're working out and you're doing the Goggins workouts,
well, we're not doing that, but
hey, this guy, for anybody who hasn't heard of David Goggins yet, and by the way, very motivational guy. This is a guy who does stuff like running marathons and like every day or something. And he had one where I think he talked about hurting his leg. I think it was his hamstring or something, and he still ran the marathon. I'm just incredible.
That's like, when you bring it up, that's what everybody will tell you their favorite part, or their most, the craziest part to them that they can't believe that somebody actually did. But I would tell you, I have a hard time fitting books into my life. And so I got this Audible, right, where the books are like reading it back. I've had so many books now, but so I'm listening to that one.
Okay.
And it's so cool because there's another gentleman reading the book, but then like they stop partway through and he has a conversation with David about it. So it's so cool because you hear him speaking and talking and telling like even more of a story about what was in the book. So
it'll actually get into his head a little bit. Well, a little fun fact for you. If you ever want to get your team fired up, David Goggins has a lot of YouTube videos he does. But if any said members of your team don't like cursing, he's very much that guy. He's going to tell you, hey, well, get the F up and do what you
I've heard all that so far in the beginning of the book right off the bat. But and that doesn't seem to bother me. So it does. He's super motivational, and the fascinating thing about it, like the times when he doubted himself and tried and talked himself out of doubting himself. And it's just, that's such strength, that it comes from somewhere. And so
doubting yourself also bumps in the road that we all face. He had one heck of upbringing and still bashed through. So I think there's a lot of great lessons there. Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. Yeah, definitely recommend it. Well, Carla, we talked a lot about great things today. One of the things that I emphasized here, talked about unity, communicating, and listening. I hope that any politicians, aspiring politicians or otherwise, will do exactly that. And I wish you luck with your future and everything you're doing.
Thank you so much.
And keep inspiring.
This was fun. I loved it. Thank you for having me.
Well, great. Well, it's great to have you on the show, and you're always welcome back on with us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, and for those listening, we appreciate you guys. Continue to listen, support the show, and we will see you guys next time on Crowning Connections with Rob Clemens.